The last Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was married 3 times. His first marriage to Fawzia of Egypt was unsuccessful. The queen fled the Iranian palace a few years after the wedding. Why was her life so miserable in Iran? And how did the life of Princess Fawzia of Egypt turn out? Times when Iran had a royal family are a thing of the past. In 1979, the Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, his wife Farah Pahlavi, and 4 children had to flee abroad after the Islamic Revolution. But many still miss these times. The Shah of Iran and his wife were role models for many citizens. Mohammad Reza Pahlavi and Queen Farah were a lovely and happy couple. Their marriage lasted 21 years until the death of the Shah. However, before the Shah of Iran met the greatest love of his life, there were 2 unsuccessful marriages. When Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was a 20-year-old, he married 17-year-old Princess Fawzia of Egypt. The beauty of this woman still excites people. She was often compared to famous Hollywood actresses like Hedy Lamarr and Vivian Leigh. However, despite her rare beauty and noble origin, the girl could not win the Iranian Shah's heart. From the outside, the life of the Egyptian Princess Fawzia seemed ideal. The beautiful princess with movie star looks grew up in the luxurious surroundings of Ras El Tin Palace in Alexandria. Everyone adored this pretty girl. Cecile Beaton, who took her portrait for Time magazine in 1942, described her as an Asian Venus, with a perfect heart-shaped face and strangely pale but piercing blue eyes. But in fact, despite the external chic, the princess's life was not simple. She survived abuse in her own family, an unsuccessful marriage, and the loss of 2 crowns. Princess Fawzia was born in 1921 into the family of Sultan Fuad I of Egypt and Sudan, later King Fuad I, and his second wife. She was of mixed Egyptian and Albanian descent, with dark hair and blue eyes. The girl received a good education in Switzerland and spoke 3 languages fluently: Arabic, English, and French. While studying abroad, the princess had a lot of freedom. By the way, she always dressed fashionably in a European style, so many Western magazines admired her and called her one of the most beautiful women of our time. However, upon returning from Switzerland, Princess Fawzia lost her freedom. Her family forbade her to leave the palace without security. But more than that, the princess could not marry for love. Fawzia's brother, King Farouk, decided that his sister could become the wife of King Faisal II of Iraq. This alliance would help Egypt strengthen its influence in the Middle East, but in the end he decided to marry his sister to the Iranian crown prince, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. At the same time, no one asked what the princess herself wanted. Before the wedding, she met with the Iranian crown prince only once. This marriage was a political move, and there was no love. The fact that this marriage was of convenience is also mentioned in the declassified CIA report. Most interested in this union was the father of the crown prince, Reza Shah, who wanted to unite his Sunni royal, the princess, and the Shia royal, the crown prince. It must be admitted that at that time the Iranian royal Pahlavi family was not so respected in the Middle East. Reza Shah was not of noble royal descent. He was the son of a peasant, joined the Iranian army as a private soldier, rose to the rank of general, and then seized power in a coup in 1921. The Shah of Iran wanted his family to become related to the Egyptian royal house, to have more weight in the political arena. Therefore, he made a lot of effort to get his son to marry an Egyptian princess. For example, he sent gifts to Egypt, but they did not impress the rich royal court. The contrast between life in Egypt and Iran was significant at that time. When the Iranian delegation led to the crown prince arrived in Egypt, they were amazed by its wealth. In turn, the Iranian crown prince was dressed rather modestly. The Shah of Iran eventually managed to secure the marriage of his son and Princess Fawzia. The wedding occurred twice in 1939, first in Egypt and then in Iran. The celebration in Cairo was lavish with a 20-course meal. Then the honoring was repeated at the Marble Palace in Tehran. The Shah of Iran invested a lot of money in this event. Still, it could not compare with the holiday in Egypt. Princess Fawzia, who grew up in incredible luxury in the palace and was accustomed only to French cuisine, was disappointed with the reception. She noted that the cuisine in Iran could have been better quality, and the Marble Palace, which became her residence, was worse than her usual palace in Cairo. In addition, the Egyptian princess and the Iranian crown prince had different native languages. The princess spoke Arabian and the crown prince spoke Persian. They had to communicate in French. Moreover, Fawzia disliked Reza Khan, whom she described as a violent and thuggish man, prone to attacking people with either his whip or riding crop. After the wedding, the princess received Iranian citizenship. 2 years later, the crown prince succeeded his exiled father and was to become the Shah of Iran. Fawzia also received the title of Queen of Iran. Soon after her husband's ascent to the throne, Queen Fawzia appeared on the cover of the 21st September 1942 issue of Life magazine, photographed by Cecile Beaton, who described her as an Asian Venus. Also, a year after the wedding, the couple had a daughter, Princess Shah Pahlavi. It seemed that Queen Fawzia had everything one could dream of. She became a mother, received the title of queen, and had the appearance of a Hollywood star. However, life in the Iranian palace never brought her happiness. Fawzia felt like a hostage in the palace and was very unhappy. One of the reasons for her severe depression was that her husband's mother and twin sister treated her extremely negatively. This led to numerous conflicts. One day, during a quarrel, one of Queen Fawzia's daughters-in-law broke a vase over her head. This was a great insult for an Egyptian woman who was used to everyone adoring her. In addition, her husband did not defend her in any way in these scandals, as he was busy with more important matters. He had many royal duties and many love affairs with mistresses. He often drove through the streets of Tehran with one of his girlfriends and did not hide these infidelities at all. Life in Iran became a real torment for Fawzia, and all she dreamed of was returning home to Egypt. She even had to seek help from an American psychiatrist who diagnosed her with depression. Rumors that the princess was extremely unhappy in Iran reached Egypt. When the courtiers came to visit her, they were shocked. After reporting that she was so thin, her shoulder blades were jutted out like the fins of some undernourished fish. Her brother's reaction was swift. He urged her to come home, and a divorce was granted 3 years after she returned to Cairo in 1948. Announcing her return to Egypt, the court stated the Persian climate had endangered the health of Queen Fawzia, and that thus it was agreed that the Egyptian king's sister be divorced. Another reason for her return was that she viewed Tehran as underdeveloped compared to modern cosmopolitan Cairo. To end this unhappy marriage and to return to her native country, Fawzia had to separate from her daughter, who remained in Iran. The Shah tried to convince her to return many times, but she remained in Cairo. Mohammad Reza told the British ambassador in 1945 that his mother was probably the main obstacle to the return of the queen. But she hardly regretted her choice. A year later, she met another man. In 1949, she married Egyptian aristocrat Colonel Ismail Shireen. This time it was a love marriage. They had a daughter and a son. In 1952, the princess experienced a new ordeal. Egypt experienced a revolution that overthrew its royal family. Fawzia lost her princess title and became a commoner. But despite these difficulties, she was described as far happier being married to Colonel Shireen than she ever had been to the Shah of Iran. The former princess was allowed to stay in Egypt with her family. Fawzia had to move from a luxurious Cairo palace to a modest Alexandria villa. From then on, her life was very simple and unnoticeable. Public appearances, interviews with journalists, and photo shoots for magazines were a thing of the past for her. She spent most of her time at home, watching TV, reading books, and gardening. Fawzia lived with her husband for 45 years and enjoyed this simple life. Sources mention it was a true love story, and Fawzia found her balance and fulfillment in this union. She once said, "Twice in my life I lost the crown. Once I was the Queen of Iran, and once I was the princess here." She smiled. "It's all gone now. It doesn't matter." Fawzia lived her entire life in Egypt and died in 2013 in Alexandria at age 91. She was buried in her native country. She lived a very long and exciting life. She didn't go out much in public and surrounded herself with just the closest family and friends. She was the last Egyptian princess living in Egypt. From queen to living on a very basic income, it was a hard fall, but she took it all in great stride and style, the friend said. Her story proves that life in a royal palace does not always bring happiness, and only marriage for love makes a woman happy. What would you choose, life in a luxurious palace with an unloved person, or a love marriage in modest conditions? Thanks for watching. Remember to share your thoughts with me. Click like and subscribe. See you next time.